Hi, my name is Alan Rogers, and I am going to be presenting my capstone project midterm report. The report is on predicting the impact of Greensboro's housing crisis through an analytical approach. Problem. Affordable housing is a major issue in many cities across the U.S. Greensboro faces this issue and doesn't have the data or methods needed to produce market segmentation and cost analysis for affordable housing. A little bit of background about the project. The Housing Committee of the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro is working with the city policymakers and developers to come up with a way to fix the lack of affordable housing. I'll be working with the Center for Housing and Community Studies as a project manager to collect, prepare, and analyze the data in order to provide recommendations for solving the housing issue, particularly for the upcoming housing bond that residents will be able to vote for at their local precinct on November the 6th. A couple of problems and questions that present themselves when beginning the project. Why isn't housing more affordable in Greensboro? How do we collect data on the frequency of vacant, abandoned, and substandard properties? What other data is available from city officials that may help in the analysis? What methods can we create to improve affordable housing? So, why is this important? The collection of data. Working with city officials to get housing data sets. Parceling a remote visual inspection of more than 120,000 parcels will be conducted using Loveland Technology site control software, which I'll be showing you a small demonstration of that shortly. Helping those in our community have affordable housing is the key component there why this is important. And not just affordable housing, but having the ability to live in homes that are not substandard and also not being charged too much rent goes along with this data that we're collecting. Scope and deliverables. I will work with the Center of Housing and Community Studies and the volunteers to collect over 120,000 parcels of data using surveys. I will be the project manager, and originally in my proposal I suggested that there would be 85,000 parcels. Well, that's just for the city of Greensboro, and as I came in the middle of the project that had initially began in March, there were roughly 60,000 parcels that had already been completed. And our first deadline, which is for the housing bond in the first week of November, we won't be anywhere near the 120,000, but we will continue collecting beyond that for other analytical purposes, and I'll go into that a little bit more later. I will also collect data from Greensboro city officials, which I've done, and we're currently cleaning that data. All data collected will be uploaded into a geographical information system of Greensboro. We'll be using policy maps and also ARC maps. The GIS will project 82 variables that will display the data and filters and can be easily manipulated for analysis. I will produce a report on methods and analysis of how to improve affordable housing in Greensboro. And also looking to provide a system or tool and methods for the Housing Committee for the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro to use for keeping data on the housing stock in Greensboro moving forward. So what's important here? Housing stock census is an important project to the Greensboro community in order to provide affordable housing. When our community members are unable to afford housing, they can take to living on the streets and living in homeless shelters. One interesting fact that I've come along as we've started digging into the data is rent has really gone up in substandard areas due to 93% of Greensboro is not vacant, has residential people in the residence, so therefore landlords or slumlords, if you want to call them, are able to charge more under rougher conditions, and can cause a lot of issues that kind of have a trickle effect out on the community. And next, we want to provide a standard method of collecting data, and again, I will be showing you a demonstration shortly on that. And based off of our findings through the data collected through surveys and through the Clery, we will be providing an analytical-based recommendation. Some of the data that has been collected and that will be used in our analysis, I'll just go over briefly. Tax delinquency in the last 5 years, code reinforcement, or enforcement, for the last 5 years, demolition, boarded secure, new building permits, lead registry, food insecurity map, current market conditions such as foreclosures, water shutoff, addresses for federal and local assistant properties, UCR crimes by addresses, fires by address, current transportation GIS layers such as bike, buses, and greenways, and zoning GIS layers. So I just wanted to include that in just to show as an example that there's a lot more going into this analysis than just our visual site surveying. That's critical because of the most current data of vacant and abandoned homes, but all this goes into defining various correlations within the city housing. Some challenges I've come across so far. We initially on our team had several surveyors. We have a project manager. We got 2 GIS consultants and mappers. We also had a student from the econ department who was going to be cleaning our data for us, and unfortunately the center just could no longer afford it. The director and myself kind of took a step back and said, we can clean this data ourselves, just take a little bit extra time. But given that I'm working 10 hours a week in the center, I think we'll have plenty of time to get that done and cleaned. And as a preliminary trial, we went ahead and started cleaning the data that we had up to the point, and we will be doing the same thing. A little bit that goes into that is when cleaning the data, we have to get rid of duplicates. Sometimes, for whatever reason, the survey may be done twice. And then also just finding variables or codes to use for unknown or missing data. Some issues with quality control for volunteers. Each volunteer had 10, 20, some even 40 hours that they had to complete. And in order to keep some type of track of that, what I was doing was I was drawing maps on the Techlum site in order to help the volunteers know to stay within their city limits. I was able to assess how much work they had done, and I based that off of 50 surveys was an hour. And also, as I mentioned, the quality control aspect was very important because we had to make sure that someone just wasn't clicking the survey. So briefly, I'm going to show you the map that we use in Loveland Technologies. Just a real quick, brief historical fact here. Greensboro was originally two different cities, Gilmore and Moorhead, and they were combined. Gilmore historically is known for the more poor minority area, and surprisingly, over 200 years later, it has remained that same way, especially in the southern region. And here in Moorhead, to the left, or to the west rather, was more predominantly the wealthier and the upper class. And I'm just going to click on the map here, and it's going to show how I would have to go in, and for each person doing surveys, I would have to draw out an area that I would like them to isolate, whether it is a neighborhood, a community, but I had to keep it within the city limits because that's where our first assessment was coming from. I just wanted to show you graphically what that looks like. Most of the homes, we do have some different color coding, coordination, depicting the conditions of the homes and the areas, and we'll be able to build layers on top of that to see any type of correlations and get our future analysis on that. Okay, I'm going to go back to the slide. This is an example of block level mapping that is used in ArcMap, and this is from the surveys that we've gotten so far. This is just a regional block level map showing neighborhood regions, where the vacancies are predominantly and where they're heavily at. And a lot of assessment can go from here. If you'll notice, this area tends to be the southern eastern part that I had mentioned that for the past 200 years has continued to be on the poor side, and they tend to call that redlining, where it just doesn't change, and over time it hasn't really changed, and the conditions need vast improvement. This is another map, not using the surveys but using other data, just showing that from a parcel standpoint, and also on the block level of the renter burden, and that's based off of statistics show that 30% of your income spent towards rent is too much. It needs to be below the 30% mark. So these real dark areas here you're seeing are way too much, and we want to help improve that for our overall community. Briefly, I want to show you some statistics that were gathered from the surveying, and just showing you where we're at with our preliminary surveys. We have not got our final data from surveying yet, but again, we thought it was a great idea to go ahead and start surveying that, so we could have as much prepared as possible for when the deadline encroaches. And some things that you can pick out here from these surveys are the foundation of the home. Do they have issues? Do they have cracks? We looked at every porch, stairs, handrails. 48% do not have handrails. 1 in 5 homes do not have sufficient porch lighting, and some may be like, oh, why does that matter? Well, actually it does matter if you have an emergency, or EMS or fire department is looking for your home. That can kind of devalue the property if they are unable to find it. We also got some siding issues, missing paint, or peeling paint. And then we looked at sidewalks, power lines, various other things, just to get some type of review of what needs addressing, and be able to show the city of Greensboro where this money needs to be allocated to. We're hoping through a little bit more cleaning of the survey data and a little bit more analytical research, we'll be able to provide a good analysis of where we need to move from there. Thank you very much.